And and welcome to another episode of Nightmare Road. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Deacon, here with the very wacky
Ashley Oracle. I like it.
and today we have a very special episode. Oh, today's episode is brought to you by Loop by Lottie, so you guys can go ahead and get your mystery boxes, the jewelry, get all that good stuff. And if you guys it's your first time purchasing, hit the code. What is it?
Mm, Oh, what is
Lucky
it?
Loot. Lucky Loot.
Lucky List.
Lucky Loot for a 10% off of your first purchase.
I'm not gonna lie, I've only looked at that code maybe twice, and like we said before the show, I don't have a retentive memory. So
Yeah, and also buy the Silver Witch. Go ahead and go buy your packets. Go buy. They got everything in there now. They've expanded actually their kits, so you guys can go check that out.
yeah,
Um, so anyway, today's episode is on Demonizzo or the Demon demons.
eh, thank you.
Um,
I was gonna say English, please.
uh, so Diabolos. So when you hear the word demon, what comes to mind?
Evil,
Besides, say,
possession,
besides Hillary Clinton. Um,
negative. What else? There's all sorts of stuff that comes to mind. What comes to your mind?
okay. What come?
Oh my
Okay,
god, it's
so
gonna be completely different from mine.
no, not no. Deceitful, dangerous, scary, a little scary. Um,
Can be.
can be. Um, even like a slow burn. So
Oh, I like that.
a slow burn. Um, and the reason why I say slow burn is because a lot of people when they think of the word demonized or demon, they imagine the head spinning around. They imagine you know what I mean, like all that kind of
The
scary stuff.
Exorcist movie.
Yeah, like The Exorcist and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, the evidence
Dream
that
vomit.
yeah, the pea soup. But in reality, the way that a lot of demonization works is it's a slow burn. Like it's very
Yeah,
slow because the last thing they want is to be noticed. So, and they could even, you know, damn, I don't even know like where the hell to start because it's such a big topic.
it's
Um,
huge. It's wild.
so there seems to be okay. So when I think of the word demon, I'm looking at um, demon through the biblical sense. Um, so, like for
Like
example,
the King Solomon's 72 demons? Is that what you're thinking?
uh, okay, so you're thinking of the Lesser Key of Solomon,
Yeah.
which
Is that what
so
you're thinking?
no, I was thinking more. So with the Lesser Key of Solomon, I have a lot of issues with it. Um, like number one, the Lesser Key of Solomon supposedly was written around the time of King Solomon, right? But the
Supposedly.
yeah, so the manuscripts that they have from the Lesser Key of Solomon, there's two. There's actually two variations. One of them is written Aramaic. Aramaic did not come about as a language until 200 years after King Solomon. Aramaic was
Oh,
basically
interesting.
it was the blending of the Hebrew with the Roman Latin or Greek. They basically they made this language that was easier for everybody to utilize. So it became kind of a universal language, and you see that in the New Testament. The language that was spoken during the time of King Solomon was Hebrew, was
That makes
ancient
sense.
Hebrew. So a lot of the manuscripts that they find with the Lesser Key of Solomon were either written in Aramaic, which wasn't around, or it was written in Latin, which is around medieval times. Um, So it's seen as a almost like a ghost story, if that makes sense. Like it's almost like a scary story. And
Yeah.
then many years later, many years later, actually, around I would say the 1800s is when they started taking the Lesser Key of Solomon serious. With the seals and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you guys have watched
That
Supernatural,
is
and
right. Sorry.
if if you guys have watched Supernatural, like we're gonna use the demon trap, we're gonna use this. That actually comes from the sigils found in the Lesser Key of Solomon. Um,
Supernatural's so great. I need to rewatch that series.
so what I'm referring to is like Old Testament, New Testament of demons. So what is a demon? A demon, according to the biblical reference, is a fallen angel. Is an angel that sided with Satan, and they fell, and they became, you know, demons.
I
So
call some people fallen angels.
the what? Well, I mean,
I call people a fallen angel. I'm like, you're not an angel. You're definitely a fallen
yeah,
angel.
yeah, you filthy animal, you. So,
Sorry.
what I when I look at something like a demon is someone that or something that is very ancient, has a lot of knowledge because they've been around for thousands of years, and in the end, they're gonna lose. They're gonna be destroyed. So what they do is they try to cause as much damage as possible to human beings. And you get different, yeah, you get different varieties of demons. Some of them are more intelligent than others. You get some that, for example, when you look at the Book of Exodus and they're talking in Exodus and Deuteronomy is where they present the scapegoat that is supposed to go to Azazel, the spirit of the wilderness. Um, and that is
Yeah.
found in the book of Deuteronomy, Deuteronama, the second law. So, or the second time the law's been, you know, spoken about to people. So it's more of a demon of the wilderness. It's out there in a desolate area. So people used to get their in the Old Testament. People used to transfer their sins onto two animals, one to be sacrificed, um, and then the other one would be placed on a goat, and then the goat was released out in the well, yeah, it was released out into the wilderness because they believed that the sin of the person made them dirty. And when it made them dirty, then they placed their hand on an animal and they're transferring their
So I'm not gonna lie. My first thought when you said they placed an animal on a goat.
no, their sins, not an animal on a goat.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying they put an animal on a goat. So I was thinking, so like, and they place them like
Like a
death
monkey.
and just like strap them down.
Like the monkey's like, ah, and they just leave. so
I think
so then
that's
they
better.
so then they send this goat to this is where we get the term scapegoat actually. So that term, oh, you're the scapegoat, that's where that comes from. It's from that. It's from the Old Testament. So they would send that out to the wilderness for Azazel to devour. So you get these kind of yeah, so you get demons that are intelligent like him, and then you get more of the wild type of demon that you get, like for example in the Gospel of Matthew, when you get the madman of Gadara, who
Ooh,
was who was an individual that had a legion. And for those of you that don't know what a legion is an army of over 1,000. um so
they're
legion,
gonna go fuck shit up.
yeah, Lecchio. So this man, it said that he had chains and the chains were broken, and he would cut himself with stones and he would attack people. So, you know, people avoided this road. He was a madman of Gadara. So then when Jesus is walking with his disciples, the madman sees him and then throws himself down and he says, "What are we to do with you, son of the Most High? Have you come to destroy us before the time?" So then, so then,
But well, hasn't the Bible been rewritten like thousands and thousands of times? So how do we like know that they're not just stories?
So okay, so it hasn't been rewritten. It's been translated. Okay, so
How do
with
I
the
know it was
Bible,
translated correctly?
because you have manuscripts, and then the way that the manuscripts are set up is you do 10 copies of each manuscript, and then you go back to the original and to see if it matches correctly. And we have manuscripts. I said we like it's in my basement. And they have manuscripts from ancient Hebrew from actually thousands of years, and they match up translated into Hebrew, into whatever language you're translating it to, and you're able to match it word for word. For example, I mean, the difference in Bibles is actually a difference in wording. Um, for example, you have the King James version that said, it said, "Forth cometh Jesus." New King James English, King James English, New King James, which is more modern language, it says, "And then came Jesus." And then you have NIV, New International Version, that says, "And Jesus came forward." So you have same thing, different, written differently depending on the era. When you look at the New Testament, if you want to compare it to the ancient manuscripts, you can actually go down to England, to the Library of London, and they actually have Paul's original writings, which you can actually go look at. And it's written in Greek. So you can compare that to what it says in the modern Bible, and then kind of look at that and be like, okay, do they match up? Um, for example, when you look
My
at,
opinions to myself.
oh well, no, so when you look at, like, for example, when you look at the Greek, like, for example, in the beginning was the word was with God, the word was God. In the ancient Greek, it's prostein honein hologos, and then when you look at that in the Greek, it actually translates, exactly. So to ask your
Maybe I'm a
question,
fallen angel.
well, okay, so when you ask the question, like, how do we know that it's been translated correctly, or it's the same, you can actually go and look at it, you know, so you can look at the old ancient manuscripts. Um,
Okay.
that that's it. So that's how you
I
know. So,
don't
like,
keep my opinions to myself.
I mean, like, do you trust, if you were to read something that, for example, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, right? It's like
Okay.
it's like considered one of the oldest poems. One,
True.
okay, so if you were to read that and you're able to would you trust that this is exactly what they wrote?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
So if they had several copies with that you
Well,
can,
the person translating isn't a complete asshole and just being a dick and
well, I mean,
doing his own little thing. You don't know.
well, you do, because you can look at it and read it yourself. Like, for example, if you were able to read like ancient Mesopotamian, you're able to look at it, and this is exactly what it says. At that point, it's like, it's not what you think, it's what it says. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, so if you can carbon date it and it actually adds up to the time as old as it says it is, you can look at it and be
How
like,
do you know
okay,
that that's what they meant, though? What
though,
if it
well, because,
didn't mean what we're interpreting it as?
well, I mean, that's
Oh,
not really, because the when you look at those kind of things, it's the English language. When you look at it in different languages, like, for example, Greek, Greek is so expressatory that there's no way for you to misinterpret something. So, like, if I were to tell you,
feel
for
like we're in a
example,
full-on debate right now.
no, it's not. It's not a debate at all. Like, this is not a. So, because if I tell you in Spanish, for example, if I say, "Quiero que vayas a la tienda y me traigas un galón de leche," okay, and then somebody said, "What did he say?" He said he wants you to go to the store and get him a gallon of milk. And then you're like, "What did he mean by that?" Well, what did he say? Like, oh, he said to go to the store and get. Did he write it down? Yeah, it's written down over here. What does the note say? The note says, "Go to the store and get him a gallon of milk." Well, what does that mean? It's like, well, what does it say? That's how. So that's basically how it is. So I one of my
Hey,
favorites.
go get it your damn self, fool.
Um, one one of my favorite philosophers is Marcus Aurelius. Marcus
Okay.
Aurelius is the father of Stoicism. So he spoke, because he was a Roman. He spoke Latin, but he preferred to write in the Greek because the Greek was a lot more expressatory. It's kind of like the English
Beautiful in
language.
there.
Well, yeah, it's also very, like, the language is very. It's more expressive. Um, like, for example, in English we have the word love, right?
Yes.
So yeah, okay. So you love somebody, you tell them I love you. Well, in the Greek, there's two forms of love. There's a The word love is not just love; it's depending on the type of love. Like for example, if you were to say ego phileo, you know, it basically means okay, it means I love you. If you were to say something like ego agape, it means I love you. So you're like, wait a
How
minute.
many languages do you know?
It
What
okay,
is
a lot.
happening here?
So the difference is that I said the same thing, right? When you translate it into English, what I said, it translates the same way. It translates to "I love you." The difference is phileo is conditional love, like I love you until, I love you unless. Agape is unconditional. Agape love is unconditional love. Like there's no,
I'm gonna say the
you know.
first one more often.
So
Maybe I
phileo.
like their language better.
So I mean, but that's what I mean. It's more expressatory. That's why Marcus Aurelius chose to utilize the Greek language because it had more room for expression. So when he said something, he can say something and it has a lot deeper meaning because there's more vocabulary to choose from to describe something. It's not very.
English sucks.
It's not limited. Well, it's not that it sucks. Is that this version of English sucks because the original English is Elizabethan, and Elizabethan is the closest thing to the root of English, which is Germanic. So English comes from Germany, from the German language. So that's why a lot of words in German sound like English. For example, if you were to say to somebody "Good morning" in German, it's "Guten Morgen." You know, it sounds so similar. Anyway, all right, back to our topic. So,
Holy
and
shit.
so took you for a ride there. Um, so anyway, so in the Gospel of Matthew, when he he ends up exorcising these demons out of this man. They asked for permission. They said, "Can we go into the pigs instead of being cast out?" And then he says, "Yes, you may." So they go over, and then these demons take over 1,000 pigs. And the first thing they do is they run off a cliff and they drown themselves.
Oh, that's kind of funny.
So why did they do that? It's because they saw an opportunity to commit something evil. It's like, well, we're
Mhm.
free now. We're gonna take the opportunity. We're gonna take it. So they went. And
Oh,
and but then when Jesus asked them, "What is your name?" They say, "Akigolegio." They say, "We are legion, for we are many." You know, that was the that was the name.
well, don't they say like demons, they're not gonna say their
Well,
actual name? You have to be the one to do
unless you're Jesus, the remember it says that
that.
he controlled the unclean spirits and they obeyed him. So, but a lot of these demonic entities they hide. But why do they hide? They hide because they don't want to be discovered because they want to stay because they want to cause damage. So, but you've heard of crossroad demons, right?
I've heard of it, but I don't exactly know what it is.
So a crossroad demon is a demon that you come across like at midnight when there's a crossroad basically, and you can go and then summon it by saying, "I will trade my soul." And all of a sudden somebody will appear to you and be like, "Go ahead, finish the sentence. What is it that
So
you
what
desire?"
celebrities do.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great point because I forgot. Damn it! Now I can't think of the name. There was a famous blues musician, Shitty, who was a shitty musician. He couldn't play the guitar. He he
Uh,
he he couldn't play the guitar. He sang horribly. And then one day he came up and he made a song. It's called The Crossroads. So he came across the crossroads and he made a deal. He said, "If you give me fame, I will give you my soul." So he ends up becoming very famous, right? He becomes famous and people love him. People think he's amazing. And what ends up happening is when he turned 27, he died. So I think he was only famous for like 2 years.
was it Robert Johnson?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, Robert
I
Johnston.
Yes, that's who it is. Robert Johnson.
So he
And
made it. He
that's
made
when
it.
that 27
Yep, 27.
thing started. Yep.
So you've heard of the 27 Club, right?
Oh, hell yes. A lot of my favorite singers, Amy Winehouse being one of them.
So a lot of these people, that's the big coincidence. Why are they dying at the age of 27? So
Jim Morrison was one of them, wasn't he?
yes,
Yeah, he was.
that
Aw.
yeah. So they make a deal, and then they get riches, and they get all kinds of things, and then it's time to pay the piper, and then he comes for you. So
I,
it's one of those things where people say, "Well, I thought demons were supposed to be bad because they got fame, they got money." There's an ancient proverb out there that says, whether you're drowning in water or drowning in honey, you're still drowning. So
mm-hmm.
so these people are living a great life, but guess what? They're drowning in honey. They're dying. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
and then finally he comes for his payment and he takes your soul. So those
Well, I
are
mean, if you think about it, a lot of them died from like drug overdose or alcohol, or, it wasn't like just, oh, they died in their sleep. It was so peaceful. No, it probably
yeah,
fucking hurt.
yeah, or plane crashes. I mean, holy shit. Didn't
Plane crash.
the guy that sang La Bamba didn't he die when he was 27 also? But
Which
I forget his name. He's the one that sang Para bailar la bamba se necesita una You never heard that song?
I know the song, but I do not know the singer, and I did not know he died at 27. So that's news to me.
Damn, is it Richie Valley? I don't know. Anyway, so it's not important. So it goes back to way back then. So you get these famous artists and then they end up dying and it's like, well, they were shitty at some point. All of a sudden they got this talent and then they got the fame and then right when they were at their highest, literally, I'm kidding, right when
Boom.
they're at the highest, they boom, they're dead. And then you're like, what?
Literally.
Yeah, literally. And then you're like, what happened? And then you always think in the back
Uh-huh.
of your mind is like, what if they're like, it's time to pay up, you know? And and it's one of those
Oh,
things where, yeah, it's so when you said earlier about how they hide their name,
no.
a
Hmm.
lot of, I believe that the reason why they do that is because I think there's power in the name, like if you were to say they'll lie, they'll say there's somebody else, they say they're the devil. That's one
Hmm.
thing that's one thing that's really common is for somebody like he's possessed by the devil. Like the devil is not going after
No.
any
If
Joe
you
Schmo.
say the name, you're giving it that recognition. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then they're
But
like, oh
even though
shit.
they want to stay in the shadows, like, I mean, everybody could say that, but when you're recognized, that still means something no matter what.
Yeah, a lot of it, I wonder if it's pride. Like damn it, I have to come for. Oh, also, yeah,
God
well,
damn it, in my name.
yeah, like said my name. Yeah, it's me. So
That's
it's
how I feel when my name gets said sometime, like, God damn it.
I don't. So those are the crossroad demon. That's a type. That's like almost like a genie. I mean, even a genie is comes from the language of Arabic or Urdu. Genie means jinn, and a jinn is a type of demon. Is so in
Sorry,
the air.
guys. Genie from Aladdin is actually evil, and he's coming to take your souls.
So yeah, so a lot of those the jinn, they they did a lot of things like if you didn't word something correctly, they always try to find a loophole to end up, like fucking you over at the end. Um, like there was a man, like there was a very damn. How did this story go? There was a story where this person came across a jinn, and they knew it was a jinn because it smelled like smoke and it smelled like fire, and he was like, "All I want to do is I miss my friends. I just want to hang with my friends again, even if it's one last time." And guess how they found them?
Uh, I
With a
haven't heard
new
this story.
with a noose around his neck.
Oh,
The wording.
that's terrible.
He said, "I want to hang with my friends again," and he hung him. Like that's the kind of
Oh my god.
like. Have you
Way to take
ever?
something literal.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point. Is just the evilness in it. So it's like
Oh
the. Have you ever heard the story of the monkey's paw?
no.
Okay, the story of the monkey's paw is this man is in a market. He finds there's many different versions of it. So this man finds a monkey's paw. He doesn't know what it is, and it's got like his hands open. And then he realized that whenever he asked for something, like at some point in the story, he had a son that was living with them, and he made wishes. He realized that he can make wishes, and whenever he make a wish, it says the monkey's paw would just close as the wishes were, you know. So finally, he had.
Oh,
So finally, he. So finally, he had three wishes left, and then he's like, "Well, what should we wish for?" And he said, "I wish for £1 million, which $1 million. So, well, more than a million." He says, "Because how's money gonna hurt you unless you throw it in the air and it lands on your head? Ah, ha, ha, whatever." So he makes that wish, and then the monkey's paw just, a finger closes. So then the very next day, there's a knock on the door, like boom, boom, boom. And they're like, yeah. He's like, hey, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your son fell into the machine in the factory, and he's got grounded up, and he had life insurance with the factory. So here's a check for your million. He says, he's like, I'm sorry. So here's your check. I'm sorry, your son's dead, and and then later that night, his wife's grieving and she's crying and she wants her son. So she says, I want my son to come back to me. So the monkey's paw just closes, and then all of a sudden they hear a dragging sound outside the door. Just and they hear like a dragging sound. All of a sudden there's a heavy pound on the door, just boom, boom. And then she's like, it's our son. Our son is here. And she's running to open the door. And the husband stands in front of the door and he says, whatever you do, don't let it in. So then
oh my
he
god.
grabs the monkey's paw and he says, I wish whatever it is outside that is out there, I wish for it to go away. All of a sudden, the monkey's paw closes, it sparks and then explodes. Then the door flies open and there's no one there. So that's basically like
Wow.
yeah, such a good story. So that's another,
Ugh.
yeah, that's another form of like a crossroad demon. Um, but
The
then
dragging was uh gross. Okay, sorry. I have the nastiest video playing in my head right now. That's disgusting.
so that's one type, and then there's the ones that
Ugh.
like to torment people by just causing, you know, ruckus around the house. Doors are slamming. You hear whispers. You hear all those things, and that's another type. That's just I don't even know what to call those. What would you call those? Just a bored demon. He's just bored, so he's just
A
gonna.
bored demon.
Well, yeah, because you've been alive for thousands of years. You have nothing to do, and you're like, I'm gonna torment this poor family. So
I,
then,
I mean, I'd do the same thing if I was that bored. Start
just torment.
slamming things.
Yeah, slam things, hurl somebody against the wall, give them like deep scratches.
Why not?
Yeah, yeah. There's several stories with stuff like that. That
There is.
where
Or like
somebody.
there's oh yeah. Go on.
So
Sorry.
no, oh no, you're fine. So it's just one of those things where that's another type, and that's more of an overt, like more open. Like you hear the growling on the EVPs, or you hear actual talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I feel like those are the ones that you have to invite in.
You think so? Like you
I really don't think demons are just gonna come inside someone's house. I really think that you have to be doing something to bring it in.
like to get their attention. Like what's going on over
Yeah.
here?
Like a negative presence, yeah. I can see that coming into someone's house just willy-nilly. But an actual full-fledged demon, I think you have to really be doing something to bring one of them in.
Oh, you mean like for example, not closing a Ouija board and there's an open door,
That
and
is a
then they're like,
great example.
and then you're like, hey, look at this. There's an open door.
Or like mirror magic, for example. People not properly closing mirrors out if they're doing something with mirrors. Like there's
Ye- Yeah, they just
yeah,
leave that. They
there's
just leave
too
the
much
door
shit.
wide open, and then
Yeah, and
damn.
they're inviting it in.
Yeah, and you don't even know how many either, because if it's an open door, and and
Exactly.
it's and it's not just the one, because like we just talked about, imagine a legion. There's like
Mhm.
there's 1,000 of them, like they're having some kind of mosh pit going on. They're like, look, there's an open door. Damn.
It's like the mirrors in my bathroom, for example. I have two mirrors facing each other. That is a big no-no. I shouldn't have that, but also one of them's my getting ready mirror. So I stage my bathroom like at least once a week because I know that's just a big open portal if I don't do anything.
Do you cover it at all? Like you just throw a blanket over it, or just do you think saging
I
is
would
enough?
not be able to throw a blanket over a mirror that's literally nailed into the wall.
Just
It's
put
a little
tacks.
different.
Like,
It's a
put
I'm not putting more holes in my wall.
well, yeah. It's not like there's an open portal. I mean, yeah, yeah. You know what?
I stage it. I keep it closed.
Slam me face first against the wall several times, and
Decon, who am I? Who are you talking to right now?
Ash the Oracle.
Thank you.
um, and
I got
speaking of
this shit.
oracles, that's actually something that's really interesting. Okay, so there was a story in ancient Greece how there was an oracle, and this oracle. So remember that there was remember we talked months ago about Alexander's mom. That she was like a very dark witch. You know,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. So the cult of her people, they they basically had their own oracle, and she could have been. She had moments where she was an oracle. For example, King Philip lost his eye because he peeped at her while she was like doing her oracle stuff. Um, so yeah, come on, dude, you
She
know the
didn't give him
rules.
permission, so yeah.
Yeah. So in the story, it's interesting because she bends backward, all messed up, and then she looks directly at Philip, and she says, in a voice, "Cursed be the eye that you spy on the oracle with, for that eye will no longer be." Look at it. It says the eye
Right.
that eye is no longer yours. And then he's like, "What the hell?" And King
Mhm.
Philip was badass on the battlefield, but he was magic scared him, so it freaked him out. And then he goes out to wage war, and arrow catches that eye, and he loses it. So he walked with so he had an eye patch for the rest of his life. Anyway, so same concept, right? They had their oracle, and it was in a deep forest, and they had like their little stone pillars, and somebody went to go ask of the oracle, and they would bring offerings to the oracle. It was wine and gold. Like, here's some wine,
That's
here's some gold.
beautiful. I will
So
take those offerings all day.
and it was gold in any form. Where it was jewelry, or if it was raw, like raw gold, or if it was jewelry, if it was coins, it was whatever, and wine. So yeah, all right, geez. so so this person brings these offerings to this oracle, and it says that she takes this like a skin off the ground, and then there was like a puddle, and she looks into the puddle, and it says there was this creature on the other side, and looking like a mirror. And then it says she leaned in, and she said something to it, and then she put her ear up to the puddle, and then this thing goes in and starts whispering in her ear. She's like whispering, and then says she turns to him and she said, "You are going to die in 4 days. So make your amends." So
Oh,
he's
like
like,
the
what?
ring.
So like, well, yeah, I guess like the ring. So hey, didn't she come through like screens and stuff like that?
Yeah, water.
I Oh shit! I wonder if that's where they got it
Because
from.
she was thrown into a well, and so when she came out of the screen, there was always water, and then when she would leave and the water would be gone, there would be watermarks and water damage everywhere, like
I
all
wonder.
over the.
I wonder if that's where they got it from. That's pretty interesting. And remember that the oracles from that area, from the south of Philippi, were always seen as dark matted hair that covered their face. You know, like Olympus was Alexander's mom. She always had her dark hair. It says that she had her dark hair,
My
covering her
hair's not
face.
matted. Sorry,
And
guys.
yeah, but her hair was matted. She was greasy, and yeah,
Gross.
yeah. Well, I mean, what are you gonna do? So anyway, so he's like, make your amends. So this person went around, and you got to remember back then, people might say, whatever. If you were to travel deep into a fort or climb a high mountain, it's because you believe it, you buy it. So
Mhm.
you went, gathered everybody that he wronged, like, I'm sorry, da 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 da, to you, and I'm so sorry because I did this to you. And it says that 4 days later, a chariot with a horse ran him over, killed him. You know,
Jesus,
like, isn't that insane?
hell,
Just like 4 days.
that would be a terrible way to go too.
Getting to, oh yeah, getting, because damn well they're not traveling at the speed of a vehicle, so it's not instant. It's like you're getting hit at like 20 miles an hour, with like over 1,000 pounds, and the wheels going over your stomach, like crushing your spine. You know, the best case
And
scenario is
how to take it there.
yeah, best case scenario, they run over your head. Like that's the best. Like instantly, go ahead and take me out. So I mean,
Oh,
so the
take
reason
me
why Yeah, so the reason why I tell that story is not because of the oracle herself, but because what was on the other side communicating. You know, it was what they call in the Greek, it's called a daemon, which is a spirit or an uttering spirit or a spirit of knowledge. So a demon. That's where we get the term demon from in our language.
yeah.
So communicating with these things, you know, and damn, and it's just like so insane because there's so many different varieties. Um, another one and another type is, addiction. People say that addiction, slowly killing you, that addiction. And it's well, yeah, and Stephen King actually words it very beautifully in The Dark Tower. In The Dark Tower, there was a character who was addicted to heroin. And the main character in the Dark Tower is Roland, right? Roland Deschain. So Roland is the gunslinger. And Roland says, "For this man is possessed by the demon, and and his demon's name is heroin." And I'm like, "Damn, that's such a beautiful illustration."
Well,
Like,
it's a good another good example of that is oh, what was his book called? Nikki Six from Motley Crue. I've read it twice. It's called The Heroin Diaries. But he literally puts in this book that when he was doing heroin, he was seeing demons. That's all he could describe it
oh, that's interesting.
as. You should read that book.
A heroin book, I pass. I'm kidding.
No,
So
it's not. It's not
no,
like
no, I'm
that.
kidding. I'm kidding. So, but when somebody's on heroin, what do they do when they nod off? A lot of them nod off in like weird positions, and they're like in a trance. You know what? Yeah, like so. I
It's a slump.
Yeah, like, and when you look at something like that, it reminds me a lot of Alexander's mom. The way that she was described, she was like in a weird, unnatural
Oh,
position. You
the
right?
Fentifold. Have you
The
seen those videos?
of the what?
It's called the Fentifold. So they're showing it's I mean, the videos I've seen are of people in Portland.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyways, but they're addicted to fentanyl and they get to the point in their height where they're literally
The-
standing, their
yeah,
knees are folded, and they are
yeah, and they're yeah,
folded in
yeah. It and they stand like that for hours, right?
hours. They have the strongest knees I've ever seen in my life.
Or it just like their muscles locked in, you know.
Yeah,
But where
everything
so
is locked. Like you can't do anything with them.
that's insane because
It's crazy.
damn Portland,
Could that be
Oregon.
Yeah, Portland, classy. No offense to anybody that lives there.
I offend all of them. If I'm in
You could
Portland,
not pay me to go to Portland even to just visit.
Portland, Oregon, you bunch of
Yeah.
whores. Portland, Oregon. If I'm in Oregon and I want, a good smell compared to the city, I go stand next to a porta potty. It's like this is much better than the smell of the city. Anyway, so but anyway, so then when people do that when they're not off, like you gotta ask them like where did you go and what did you see? Because a lot of that sounds like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like where do you go? Because their consciousness has to leave, right? Has to go somewhere.
They are lost in their own minds. They're having their own visions. They are in their own kind of hypnosis. You cannot bring them out. You
So
can
do you think
try.
so um so do you think that they're communicating with things or something? You know what I mean? Like that, like like that book you just said he saw demons and he talked to demons. Like, do you think that it's like a portal?
I think it's possible now that I'm really thinking about it. I've never thought about that till now, but I think that's possible. Holy, nope, that is very possible.
What, because when you look at the, like, for example, um the what the, like the sorceresses
Cool.
in Celtic culture, they would eat these plants which were poisonous, and it would basically, make them hallucinate. As a
Hmm.
as the poison was through their body, and you know how you brought them out of that trance? They had an assistant, and the assistant would take a blade and cut them so they could bleed out that
Yeah.
poison, and then they would just come out like, oh, like, and then they would tell them, they would lean in, they'd be like, "What did you see?" You know, and then
But
they
okay, as a person who lived in Oregon for a third of her life,
Oregon.
experienced lots in Oregon. In some cases, I would say portal, yes. But in
Hmm.
other cases, no.
What if it's what if you don't know that you're in a portal? What if they just keep you?
Oh,
And I
they're
say,
you're definitely you. Mm.
because what if they just like keep you blind and it's like you're in your own mind, but
Oh,
actually they're
is
feeding off you?
that why people get stuck in acid trips?
I think so. And you know how they a lot of you know how they bring them out? They
Mm,
they they
Decon, there are some cases where people have never been brought out and they are put in like state hospitals because
yeah,
they cannot be brought out.
you,
They're
you know
gone.
how they well, you know how they bring some of them out? They bleed them.
I mean, makes sense. But no, that makes me wonder
Do Oh, you know what's crazy is I heard of a story of a person. Now that you say that, there was a person that well, that person, that this is not his story because this is secondary, so secondhand story. They said this person went, did acid, to try to figure out his life, to see his path, and he was stuck. And he was stuck for days, and then it was weeks. And then finally he comes out with a completely different personality. He was more aggressive, and then eventually jumped off a building. So
though.
I wonder if they were led through a tunnel, and then whatever the hell led him through here just took over his body. completely different
I mean, it's
personality.
possible, but I also know someone that thought they were seeing a clown coming out of a rooftop and tried running almost off the roof. So, I mean,
Well, they weren't terrified. Like it wasn't
I
like
mean,
there's the clown. They were just a different person. Like this person was very like shy and was very. And then when he came out, he was very like assertive. I'm doing this and I'm doing it. Like what the hell happened?
well, I feel like when you're on something like that and you're seeing the visuals, you're in that hypnosis, you're not seeing the world as it is. You're not, it's more than likely he did not even see that a cliff was there.
You think he just
He probably just saw land going straight out.
and then just like
And
walked off.
yeah,
Like I'm gonna go out for a jog to get stronger. Like down this
yeah.
path that he's on top of. It. That's crazy.
So,
Jeez.
okay. I have a group of friends in Oregon that told me this story. They, yes, guys, I was friends with hippies in Oregon. Surprise. So
Gross.
they were doing one of their little acid trips, okay?
Filthy
They said they
communists.
went to the beach and they found a trail. And this trail went up the cliff and then they ended up in the forest area and where their cars were. So I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. We should go back and find this trail. That sounds awesome. There was no freaking
There
trail.
was no trail. They were
There
just
was
in their
no
own.
trail. So how they got up the cliffs, we have no idea.
You know what's crazy is, and that's another type of that's another type of demon. Okay, so again, we're gonna go back to the Bible. Um, in the book of Corinthians, it warns against. It says in the English, it says they warn against witchcraft. Um,
Yes.
the Greek word for it is actually pharmakia. Pharmakia is drugs, anything that's like hallucinogenic, because that's where we get the term pharmacy from. Pharmakia. So
Oh,
it's a Greek word, and that's well, people were saying, why does it say witchcraft? It's because they that was a specific type of sorcery. They would eat certain herbs, certain things, and then they would, you know, tell the future. They would do all these things, So they didn't have when they wrote witchcraft, they didn't have a specific word for it in the English language yet. So
so were witches just like popping mushrooms and stuff
um,
back in the day?
what Well, no, with that specific type, because you got to remember, again, our language. You say witch, and then
Yeah.
they're like, "What kind of witch are you?" I'm this kind of witch. I'm this kind of.
Yeah, there's
Like in the ancient language, it was they had stargazers. They had stargazers. They had necromancers. They had
which would be the cosmic witch, the
yeah, which would be
stargazer.
which would be cosmic witch stargazers. You had observers of time. You have those who. So it's very specific things, but in the English language, they didn't have a word for that, so it all just falls under one umbrella. So 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 these witches back then, in this specific region, in the Book of Corinthians, of course, it's from the place in Greece called Corinth.
Mm-hmm.
That's the region. So there's where they had like a lot of wild mushrooms, a lot of like wolfsbane, all these plants grow around that region. So I I wonder if people that take acid, it's a form of pharmakia. Like you're led down this path because now you've opened your mind up or you've opened yourself up to these entities. Um,
Yeah,
there was
I
a
can.
study. There was a study where these scientists wanted to communicate with what they called the clockwork elves, who would give them secrets of technology. So they would all take acid, and they would all just like lay down. But then people that were skeptics would say shit like, "Well, they were all hallucinating." Well, when you hallucinate, you all don't see the same thing.
Mm-mm.
So, or you don't see each other. So they were hallucinating supposedly, but they all described the same thing. They were in this path, and there was like what looked like an elf, and this elf was kind of like, "Follow me, and I'll tell you some secrets."
What?
Yeah, and they would all follow. They would all follow and go down these corridors and go down these paths, and then he would give them like show them blueprints. And then when they would come back, they're like, "I wonder if this will work. This is what we saw." And they all went into their own little separate things, created something, made something, and it worked. So
What?
yeah, so it's like, how is that a hallucination if they all saw the same thing? They all had a blueprint that they saw that basically they weren't all exactly the same, but again, it's different perspective, but it was similar enough where it's like, okay, you went somewhere. You know,
Yeah. That
like
almost sounds like astral projecting.
yeah, in a way. So my question is,
Oh,
do you think that there's a specific type of demon that just waits for these people to open, themselves? You know what I mean?
can we name it?
Yeah, let's name it.
Can
What
we
do you
give
want to name
it
it?
a name? Let's name it. Um, hmm. Name it after a drug lord. Let's name it
But
after El Chapo. El Chapo.
no, nah. Um, nah, not that one. That's kind of gay. Um, so
Yay.
how dare you over El Chapo?
That just like instantly came out, no thought process. Just instant you're gay. Anyways,
El, El
what do you
Chapo
want to
raped
name it?
El Chapo raped women.
It's still a drug lord though.
Yeah, don't take his side over me. I want to call it. Okay, so the CIA had a special doctor that would come in and label anybody that he deemed insane, and 100% of the time, whenever he went to go see you and he gave you drugs, you ended up insane. Um, his
Did you
nickname in
hear
the
that noise like 10 seconds ago?
no, um,
Okay.
his CIA name was they called him Doctor Feelgood.
Oh,
So what's the demon's name? Feelgood. Um,
oh
damn.
God.
Oh, okay, damn it. So we have room for one more, and then we gotta end the show. Um, do
Did
you
you
have another?
really not hear that though?
No.
Wow.
What did it? What did it say?
No, it wasn't like words. It was like a little "Doo" while you were
No,
talking.
no, I didn't hear anything.
Okay,
Um,
fine.
are you okay? Have you
Yep.
taken Have you taken pharmakia? Is that what's going on? Um,
I mean, I wish, but no.
okay, another type of
Party. Just kidding,
yeah.
guys.
Um, so another type of demon is probably the ones that I think it might be the most popular, which is the like the scary things that you see in forests and in ghost stories. You know what I mean? Like for example, things like the Dover demon, things like you know the Mothman. I
Zozo.
don't well, or like Zozo. Yeah, the most those are like very overt. Those aren't the ones that are they're not hiding.
Isn't Mothman a demon?
The what? Mothman? Yeah.
Why?
Why not? What is it?
Uh, I I wouldn't say a demon. Why is he a demon? Why is Mothman a demon?
I would say he's a demon because of what he is kind of a harbinger of death. Like whenever he shows up, something horrible happens. A lot of people are saying that he's warning people, but he doesn't warn people and tell them what's gonna happen. He just appears days
But he's
later.
not a warning.
But what is he? But when you warn somebody about something, you tell them what it is. I can't just show up, just stand there and then leave, and then your house collapses. Like, oh, he was there to warn. Well, he didn't say anything.
Well, I'm
You
kind
know.
of sad that you call Mothman a demon. He's my
Well,
favorite.
well, how can he not be? I mean, when you look at certain tribes, they believe that certain demons would appear, and not just tribes like in United States, but all over the world. A certain creature would appear, and then he brought with him death and disease, and then he would leave because he brought it.
I
So
still like Mothman though. I'm sorry.
so yeah, Mothman shows up. People seeing him. Bridge collapses.
We should do a deep dive on Mothman.
There's a Mothman in. Apparently, people have been seeing the Mothman in Chicago also now.
Really?
Yeah, it's
I have a
Chicago,
friend in Chicago. I'll have to ask him.
Chicago Mothman. It's the Mothman in Chicago.
Huh.
So
I
I consider
wonder if
so that's
he's
what I
watched.
probably not. Probably tuned out a long time ago. So So you have, the Mothman. I would consider him a type of demon because he's like a harbinger of death. Whenever he's around, something terrible happens.
That's
Um,
true.
you
Man.
get same thing. Dover Demon. People see the Dover Demon or the Jersey Devil, and then something horrible happens. You know,
Well, I mean, Jersey Devil, that's explanatory.
really?
Has devil in the name.
Okay. That's yeah, yeah, that would be a good yeah that yeah that would be a good episode because there's so much history tied to him. Because there was a bounty on it. There was a bounty on the Jersey Devil, so much so that Napoleon Bonaparte's brother came to the United States to hunt it.
Let's go hunt the Jersey Devil.
Nah, I'm good. I want to go to New Jersey for what?
To hunt the Jersey Devil. You're the
With
one with the cool stuff in the background to be able to do so.
no New Jersey? They don't allow firearms in New Jersey.
Well, we'll sneak it in.
All right, fine, whatever. Just
Can be
th-
ninja.
you're gonna have to see into the future and kind of see if this goes well. So I
Maybe.
mean, but those kind of things are more of what people see, like shadow people and all those kind of things. I think those type of demonic entities are they're what I call they have no fucks to give. They don't
Would you
care.
say skinwalkers are a demon? I think
Um,
so.
I think well, I think skinwalkers are they're witches. A skinwalker's a witch
Mm,
because remember that something a skinwalker is not just in the United States. I mean, Central America. You have people converting themselves into pigs,
true.
into coyotes, and they're witches. You know, places like Europe, like for example, you have the savage hounds, or you have
Oh, yeah.
yeah, those kind of things, and they're men. Yeah, convert themselves into these animals through sorcery. So no, I think that those are witches and sorcerers. You know, um,
Hmm.
I think that something like shit, like something even like Bigfoot. I think something like
Really? You think
well,
Sasquatch?
yeah,
He
because
doesn't do anything.
he doesn't do anything. Well, I mean,
He
also
just
when
walks around.
people take pictures of him, he's always blurry because remember that you know demons they don't have a solid form. So that's why whenever
Hmm.
you unless Bigfoot that's why I always made that joke. I'm like, well, what if Bigfoot himself is blurry? That's why all the pictures come out shitty.
You know, if you were to grow your beard out more and like not shave your head, I think you could be related. Maybe.
I'm 5'6".
Just kidding. I thought you're like, I'm too short to be Bigfoot.
Too short to be Bigfoot. Isn't he like 8 feet
You don't
tall?
think you don't think there's midget Bigfoots?
No,
Why not?
I
That's
don't,
discriminatory.
because I don't care. I don't want them to be. But yeah, that's like the last type is that I would say. There's so many more. Like, shit, we can do a whole episode on the Key of Solomon and like his
Oh
demon.
yeah.
There's so many.
72 alone.
They have so many. I mean, the descriptions of them. Like this one came down, and his name was Asmodeus, and Asmodeus had 3 heads. One of them like a ram, one of them like a goat, and one the head of a lion, and the
I think,
tail like a snake.
don't they say one of those 72 demons is the one in the Annabelle doll, Mathis?
That was the
I
I
think
now
I
I
think
don't know. You could be right. That's something we have to research. But
um why didn't you do research?
because I don't do research, I read things once and then I
Oh,
just
maybe I refused this
I
time.
I
It
regurgitate.
is not okay. Malthus. Malthus.
Oh, Maltius. So
Yes, he's the
so
shape.
he's the damn. But and he's the one that's around Annabelle. They say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting. Damn,
And
that's the end of the.
Annabelle's on tour right now again.
Again. fingered.
Yeah,
Um,
she's in New Orleans as we speak. So if there's a hurricane in New Orleans soon, you know why.
because they're walking around holding them with oven mitts and feeding them hot pockets. Um,
Why are they taking her out?
yeah, wasn't a doll in a case for a reason? Like,
She's
what was the
there
guy's
for a reason.
what was the
Ed
guy's name?
Lorraine said,
Yeah,
do not take her away from this museum. You keep her here. What are they
yeah,
doing? Oh,
keep her in a glass. What was the guy's name? Tony Spiro, right? That was the guy's name.
mm-hmm.
Tony Spiro, you
He's
dumbass.
wanting to take her out on tour. He's
Yeah,
kidding.
nice going, you dumb fuck. Um,
No, because all that demon is doing while this doll is on tour is
it's
waiting for just that right person,
you think
just that right moment, and then it's gonna latch.
you gotta think it's gonna latch on. What if it's already latched on? What if it latched on to Tony Spira and it's like whispering in his ear, like you should take me on too? No, think about it.
I
Um,
believe it.
the Warrens never took the damn doll on tour. They kept it behind a damn glass,
They
right? They
kept
kept
her behind the glass
the
and
glass
in
and
that room, had the room blessed all the time, like she was not to be moved. Period.
that's interesting. Could you imagine?
She's not on tour.
Yeah, could you imagine that one day he's like, I'm gonna, because that's how I imagine he talks. I'm gonna take this doll out of the case, you know. So he like opens it and then it starts talking to him. It's like you should lean in closer. You should talk to me. And he's
No,
like, oh,
not at
tell
all.
me, do you like hot pockets? You know, and do
The
you like
flight list.
yeah, do you like hot pockets? And then Annabelle's like, you should take me on tour. And
No.
then go around town. He's like, "That's a good idea. You know, I'll get my backpack right now." And then
How
now
you do this really creepy voice and then you get it.
it's like, yeah, it's like you should take me around children. I want to see the children. All right, let's go. You know,
No.
everybody getting on the bus. You know, so they all get on the bus and they go around tour. Like, how do you not know that's not what's going on? You know,
No.
because again, again, keep this doll behind the glass. Doesn't it say positively never open?
Yeah, because there's a freaking demon attached to her. It's
Oh,
not just here, it's a demon.
that is crazy, and that's so cool. It's
And
not
she's in New
cool.
Orleans.
Yeah, and it's oh damn, that
Of
place is
all
mad.
places. Let's
Of
go
all
to New
of
Orleans.
of all places, what if that was the
Yeah.
dolls? What if that was Annabelle's idea? Like we should go to New Orleans. You can go to Mardi Gras and see some tits. He's like, I like them, you know, and but you know,
I like
I like them, you know. And so
who doesn't?
yeah, well, yeah. Oh, jeez. Um. So,
That's and you're like, yeah.
but I mean, but that damn, I guess that's something new to think about because it's like, what if it's not him making those decisions? Let's go on tour. Let's go
But
here.
it
Let's
is
go there.
her.
What if
She's
they?
like,
What if?
oh, Ed and Lorraine aren't around to keep me in check anymore. Let's some shit up.
Yeah, let's go. You ate a hot pocket for breakfast. You know, like, let's go. Damn, that's so. Yeah, that's creepy. See, and that I don't know because whenever I hear hot pockets, the person's like, "Oh, my hot pockets already." You know. So anyway, that's it. That's the show. It's already been an hour. So see, and that's what I mean. The whole topic of we can go 5 hours on this topic because
Oh,
like
easy.
so people probably thought that I was gonna say, oh, this gonna show's gonna be on demons and then head spinning around. There's so many different types, so many different
No,
variations. You know, you just don't know. It's like such a mysterious thing. And since they're alive, they've been alive for thousands of years. They're so intelligent. They're like, you know what? We can't just be straightforward. We have to hide in things.
they're
You know,
not human in any way, shape, or form.
yeah, they're just these entities that exist just to cause harm.
That just gives
So
me the heebie-jeebies.
yeah, so there you go. Also, we shouldn't have said the demon's name. Um,
Sorry if you guys are haunted.
yeah, I said Asmodeus. How dare you? Um,
I said Malthus. I said Zozo.
you said
What else did we say?
you said Zozo, the
I
one.
did, and that's my least favorite one.
The one that hides in boards and mirrors.
There's a mirror right behind me. Thanks a lot.
That's not you're the
God
one that said
damn
it.
it.
You're the one that said it, not me. Anyway, thanks for joining us on this episode. We were your hosts, guys. Check out Loot by Lottie. Check out the Silver Witch. Share the show, like and subscribe. And thank you guys for joining us. And remember to always look both ways, especially if you find yourself on Nightmare Road.
Bye.